Good morning. It's Tuesday, May 12th. We're on our second day of the week. If you have any questions about what we're doing this week, please let me know. If you have any questions about last week, let me know. We're going to go ahead and get started on today's lesson. We have a morning work page 136, Spelling City, 2 more assignments, or finish them up throughout the week as you'd like to. ReadWorks, if you haven't finished your ReadWorks from this week, you can work on that, or any past ReadWorks that we've done. Go to your past assignments and make sure they're all finished. Vocabulary, we're going to work on writing our synonyms and antonyms for our 5 words this week. Grammar, we're going to work on our interactive notebook activity for suffixes. Then we have a lesson 6 opinion writing in our Google Classroom. And then we have an Envision lesson 13.5, compare fractions, use benchmarks, and this is on page 697 to 702. After that, you can do any of the choice things at the bottom. So before we get started on today's work, let's get out our Math is Fun interactive notebook. We're going to go to the page we did yesterday where we put them under less than, equal to, or greater than. So let me go to that page. And I wanted to go over this with your answers. All right. So because I can't copy and paste or cut or anything like that, I'm just going to make the symbol. So in your book, make sure that it is glued in with the correct symbol above it. So if it's in this category with less than, then all the little arrows are facing the same direction. If it's in the equals, all of them have an equal sign. And if it's greater than, then they all have that shape going for the greater than. All right, so 3/5 compared to 3/4. So if you think about that, the greater the denominator, the smaller it is. So this one was cut into 5 pieces. This one was only cut into 4 pieces. So automatically, that one is going to be less than 3/4. How about 5/6 to 5/6? That would be under our equal sign. So you want to glue that under there. 1/3 compared to 1/10. Well, this is only cut into 3 pieces, and this is cut into 10 pieces. So I know I'm not going to get very many on that one. So we want to make this symbol. 1/3 is greater than 1/10. So you'll glue that under greater than. 7/8 compared to 7/10. 7/8 is larger because this is only cut into 8 pieces. This is cut into 10. So my pieces are smaller. 5/10 compared to 5/8. So we have a candy bar that's broken up into 10 pieces and you get 5, or would you rather have a candy bar that's cut into 8 pieces and you get 5? So the pieces will be bigger. So this one is less than. 5/10 is less than 5/8, so it would go under this category here. And maybe I can draw like some arrows here in a minute. 2/9 compared to 2/4. 2/9 is less than because this is cut into more pieces, so the pieces are smaller. 4/4 compared to 4/6. Now I can see how this one would get confusing, but look at your denominator. If it's cut into 6 pieces, each piece is going to be smaller than if I just cut it into 4. So 4/4 is greater than 4/6. So that one stays in this category. 2/7 and 2/7 equal sign. 4/5 to 4/5, another equal. Okay. So, excuse me, I guess my pencil's not working. These go under here, of course. This one goes under this one. This one goes over here. This one goes up to that one. This one goes over here to the equal sign. All right. Okay. So if you have any questions about that, let me know. But remember, the bigger the denominator, the number on the bottom, if it's bigger, then the whole thing is in little pieces, smaller pieces. Let's go to Google Classroom real quick, and then we'll go back and get started with our morning work page. So right here, you'll see your opinion writing for lesson 6. Go ahead and open that up. And so you've got a video to watch with Mrs. Sears. And then you're going to click on the second slide right here, and you're going to type in your reason number 1. So why you want or don't want something. What's one reason? Give me an example. Give me a second reason. Give me another example. Give me a third reason and another example. All right. And then our vocabulary week 4. I've added in our antonyms and synonyms. So a synonym for solitary, we have one. Oh goodness, there I am with my million heads. Million heads again. Sorry about that. We'll get out of the way over here. All right. I just put myself back. Oh, this is so comical. Oh my goodness, I'm multiplying. Okay, please excuse that. All right, so solitary, it means to be all alone. So synonyms would be one, separate, singular, isolated. The opposite or the antonym of solitary is together, combined, or multiple. Then we have the word scent, an odor that is generally good, which, interesting, the word odor makes you think that it's going to be a bad smell. But odor is generally a smell. So synonyms, odor, smell, and fragrance. And then for antonyms, there is not a perfect antonym for scent. Or this isn't one that we could say the opposite of being able to smell a fragrance. There isn't one. The next one, dawn, the first appearance of light in the morning. So synonym, morning or sunrise. An antonym is night, evening, dusk, or sunset. Remember, you can go back, you can pause. You don't have to be writing lightning speed. The next word is dusk. Early evening when the sun is beginning to set is dusk. Synonyms would be evening, night, and sunset. And antonyms would be dawn, sunrise, and morning. So just the opposites of the word dawn that we had on the other page. This last one is linger, to be slow, to leave, or to stop an activity. So synonyms mean remain, hesitate, dawdle, dilly-dally, those kinds of things. Antonyms would be to hurry, to rush, or to leave. All right, so tomorrow we'll add in a sentence, and then we'll add in our wow word for the week. All right, let's get back to today's lesson. We're going to slide down here and go to morning work, page 136. Okay, we are going to start on language. So it says read the pair of sentences. So if you'll look at each one, there's 2 sentences on each one. Read the pair of sentences, circle the pronoun, then underline the antecedent. So we've already done this in our grammar. If you do need to get out your book. But remember, a pronoun replaces a noun. And then the antecedent would be what it's talking about. So Victor takes golf lessons every Saturday. He wants to be a good golf player. So we're going to circle the pronoun. And so we're looking for the pronoun. So it looks like we have he. And who is he? Victor. All right, number 2. Myra got a computer last year. Her sister borrows it sometimes. So, which one is our pronoun? which one is our antecedent? Okay. All right. So Myra got a computer last year. Her sister browsed it sometimes. We're looking for the pronoun. And then whose sister is it? It's Myra's sister. So that's our antecedent. So take a look at number 3. Sunwoo and I walk to school together. We always leave at 8 a.m. So who does the we refer to? Number 4, Teresa's mom drinks coffee. She puts cream and sugar in her cup. So which one's the pronoun and which one's the antecedent? The one the pronoun is replacing or referring to, talking about. Numbers 5 through 8, we're going to write yes or no to tell if the shape is a quadrilateral. Remember the beginning of the word quad means 4. So you're looking to see. We have a circle. We have a rhombus. We have a parallelogram. We have a pentagon. So are they quadrilateral? And the last one. Tell about what happens to the deer's antlers between spring and winter. So we're going to write down the process or the thing that happens to the deer's antlers between that time. A male deer grows strong antlers from 2 stumps of bone on its head. A thin skin called velvet covers the growing antlers. The velvet helps make the antlers stronger. After the antlers are full size, they stay covered with velvet for about a month, until the bone inside is hard. In late summer, the velvet is shed. Finally, the deer has a strong new pair of antlers. In winter, they fall off, but the stumps of bone are left behind. So what happens to the deer's antlers between spring and winter? So you're looking for those words in here that are going to tell you when things are and what happens at that time. So when you finish with that page, make sure you show it to a grown-up at home. And we're going to grab out our grammar notebook next. All right, so I glued my grammar in right after prefixes. I've got my suffixes in. And we're going to write some words behind those little windows that go with the suffix that we have there. All right, so the first one, less or without. So we got a little thing over here. See if I can make it a little bigger. All right, so toothless would be using that word. Careless, not showing or without care. Endless, without ending. Helpless, without help. All right. Just trying to get it to be a little bigger. Okay, so we've got the suffix full or filled with. So we could do careful, like full of care, helpful, full of help, painful, something is full of pain, hope. Let's see, one more. Hopeful is full of hope. All right, so there's 4 of them, and you can write those down in your book. Okay. So we have or, one who. So I did a little breakup. I did a couple. So a batter is one who bats. So like in baseball. Thanks for that. Cheater is one who cheats. Sailor is one who sails. Distributor, someone who distributes things. Like a delivery person, maybe even. All right. On this one, let's gotta get my size right here. We have Lee, in a way that is. So angrily, they did it in a way that was angry. Anxiously, they did it in a way that is anxious. Correctly, they did it in a way that was correct. And finally, they did it in a way that it is final. So go ahead and pause this if you need to and get those written down. And then when you're finished with that, grab your Envision workbook. And we're going to look on page 698. And you'll find our girl right there with the roasted peanuts, my boy right down here. So we're going to start with that problem. So let me go over to the lesson and we'll get started on that. All right.
How can benchmark numbers be used to compare fractions? Think about this question during the lesson. Carrie wants to buy 2/6 of a container of roasted peanuts. Alan wants to buy 2/3 of a container from a same-sized container of roasted peanuts. Who will buy more peanuts?
So think about that, the larger the denominator, remember?
What are you asked to determine? What is important to know before you compare fractions?
All right, so looking at this, what's important for us to know before we start to compare the 2/6 and the 2/3? So we have to make sure that the containers are the same, that they are filled the same. This one says that they're this size, they're both the same product, they're both roasted peanuts, and they're both full. So those are things that we have to know before we start comparing them.
You are asked to determine the person who will buy more peanuts. Before you compare fractions, it is important to know that the wholes are the same size. You can compare fractions to commonly used benchmark numbers, such as 0, 1/2, and 1.
Okay, we're going to try it.
Select a fraction to place it on the number line. What conclusions can you make?
Okay, so I know half. So we've got between 0 and 1. Let's slide our half. Okay, and then 2/6. So remember where half was? And then 2/6, ready? So half was right here. So 1/2 is the same as 3/6. Let's see where 2/3 is. So there's 1/2. Let's look at 2/3. Which one's bigger? 2/3 is closer to number 1.
Compare each fraction to the benchmark number 1/2. Then see how they relate to each other in size. 2/6 is less than 1/2. 2/3 is greater than 1/2. Without looking at the containers, how can you tell that 2/6 is less than 2/3?
Okay, so remember we talked about if you're going to take that same container and divide it up in 6 ways, you're going to have smaller sizes in your groups than if you broke it up into 2 or into 3 groups. So that number is going to be very important to look at, the denominator.
You can tell that 2/6 is less than 2/3 because the numerators are the same, and you can compare the denominators. The fraction with the greater denominator is less than the other fraction. What is the missing symbol?
Okay, so we know that
Select your answer.
we know that if the number on the bottom, the denominator, is large, that means we've got small pieces. We've had to cut it that many times. If it's a lower number, then we had to cut it fewer times. So 2/6 is less than 2/3.
2/6 is less than 2/3.
Remember, 2/6 and 1/3 are equivalent fractions.
Alan will buy more peanuts than Carrie. Now you know how benchmark numbers can be used to compare fractions.
All right. Let's go to Convince Me, the bottom of our page. Just has to load. Encourage it along here. There we go. Let's see. Let's get back down here. Ooh, I'm jumping all over the screen. Look at me go. All right. I'll stay put over here. Let's listen.
Candace buys 2/8 of a container of roasted peanuts. Alan buys 2/3 of a container from a same-sized container of roasted peanuts. She says 2/8 is between 1/2 and 1, so she buys more peanuts than Alan. Is Candace correct? Explain.
Okay. All right, so we're talking about Candace believes she bought more peanuts than Alan. That she believes that 2/8 is actually between 1/2 and 1. So what do you think? So thinking about a number line, if we drew a number line across here and we broke it up into 8 pieces, and then we broke it into 3 pieces, like another one, would they be past 1/2? All right, so I'm going to go back to our little page in our book here where I can type. Okay. Let's see if we can make it a little smaller. Okay. So I believe the answer is no, because 4/8 would be 1/2, and that's just getting to half, and this is 2/8. So 2/8 is between 0 and 1/2. Okay. I know that Candace and Alan got their peanuts from the same size container. Alan bought more than 1/2. So Candace did not have more than Alan. You may pause and get that written down. Okay. Let's get my things set up here so I can see them a little easier. All right. Wrote my things down just so that it'll be a little faster for you guys. All right, so now the next page says, Tina used benchmark numbers to decide that 3/8 is less than 7/8. Do you agree? So think about a number line, 0 to 1, and you're at 3/8 and then 7/8. So would 3/8 be less than 7/8? You want your answer to say yes, since 3/8 is less than half and 7/8 is more than half. 3/8 then would be 7/8. Okay, so since 3/8 is less than a half and 7/8 is more than a half, the 3/8 is less than 7/8. Or we can write it as 3/8 is less than 7/8. Okay. Let's see here. Let's get that down a little bit here. Okay. Write two fractions with a denominator of 6 that are closer to 0 than they are to 1. So think about a section and it's broken up into 6. Can we write down two fractions that would be closer to the 0 rather than closest to the 6/6? So my answer would be 1/6 could be that number, and so could 2/6. Both of those would be the closest to 0. This one says write two fractions with a denominator. Let's get that down. Whoopsie. A little bit more uniform here. Okay. Write two fractions with a denominator of 8 that are closer to the 1 than to the 0. So we've cut it up between 0 and 1. Which one's closest to the 1? So if it's broken up into 8 pieces, we would want to say, we can't say 8/8, right? Because that is the 1. So this is one closest to the 1. So we have 6/8 and 7/8. Those both could be closest to 1. All right, which fractions are closer to 0 than to 1? And we're going to be using 1/8, 1/4, 6/8, and 3/4. So use fraction strips to help if you need to. So which fractions are closer to 0 than they are to 1? So we're looking 3/4, well, that's almost the end. That's almost 4/4. 6/8, that's almost 8/8. 1/4, that's just barely getting started. And 1/8 would be barely getting started. So we have 1/8 and 1/4. All right, so which of these fractions up here are going to be closer to the 1? So we have 6/8 and we have 3/4. Okay. Right here, use the two fractions with a denominator of 8 to write a true statement. So go to the top, looking for ones that have 8. So we have 1/8 and 6/8. Okay, so let's write our little problem here. 1/8 is less than 6/8. So that's how you do that one. All right, so we're going to go down. If you need to pause, you can do that. We're going to go down to 7 and 8. We're going to use these fractions here: 2/3, 7/8, 1/4, and 2/6. Which of the fractions are closer to 0 than they are to 1? So 2/3 is almost there to the end. 7/8 is almost there to the end. But 1/4, we're just starting from the 0. And 2/6 would only be 2 away from the 0. We're cutting things up into 6 pieces. Hopefully this is starting to make a little bit of sense. That way it'll be easier in 4th grade. All right, which of the fractions are closer to 1 than they are to 0? So just like the top, we're looking where they're almost all there. where we have the same number on the top and the same number on the bottom to tell us we have a whole. Okay, so 2/3 is close and 7/8 is close. Now, if you would rather draw pictures for many of these, so you could actually divide them up and see, that's totally fine. You can absolutely do that. If you have a dry erase at home, that would be very helpful. All right, compare these fractions with greater than, less than, or equal to. So we have 5/8 compared to 7/8. So 5/8, they both have the same denominator. So 5/8 would be closer to the 0. So 5/8 is less than 7/8. Number 10, we have a 5/8 and a 2/8. So they both have an 8 as a denominator. This is 5, so this one is greater. 5/8 is greater than 2/8. Number 11, 3/4 compared to 3/6. 3/4 is going to be bigger. Okay. 4/6 compared to 4/8. 4/6 is going to be bigger. 2/6 compared to 2/4. Well, there's a 6 here and a 4. So these pieces are going to be bigger than those pieces. So 2/6 is less than 2/4. And then the last one on this side, 2/3 compared to 1/3. So you've broken up the line into thirds, and you're 2/3 of the way compared to 1/3 of the way. So that would make it greater than. All right, so pause it if you need to, so that you can catch up with us and get it all written in there. All right, so we're on the back, and we're on page 700. We're going to use this graph, or this key, excuse me, over here on the side for the names of these people, and then how far they walked, fraction of a mile that they walked. So Mrs. Avery walked only 1/6. So if you were walking on a block that was 6 blocks long, or a street that was 6 blocks long, and they got to 1, they didn't walk very far. Mr. Nunez has 5/6, so that means that he got all the way to the 5th section. Ms. Chang is 1/3, so instead she broke her line up into 3. And then Mr. O'Leary, 4/8 is how far? So is that compared to from between 0 and 1? How far away is that? And Miss Lee, 4/6 of the way. All right. Without giving away too many things there. Number 15 says, who has walked closer to 1 mile than to 0 miles? So we're looking at the top, the numerator, and the denominator are pretty high and pretty close to the same number. So we're going to look over here and see who has walked close to a mile. So 1/6 we're just barely going, but 5 out of 6, that's pretty close. Mr. Nunez. And then let's look at the other choices. We've got 4/8, which would just be halfway there. And then Miss Lee, we have 4/6. So I think Miss Lee, pretty close. She is pretty close. Who has walked closer to 0 miles than to 1 mile? So which one's closer to the very beginning of the number line? We have Mrs. Avery and Ms. Chang. All right. Number 17, who has walked a fraction of a mile that is closer to neither 0 nor 1? Okay, so what they want there is think about when you're looking at all the people who walked a fraction of a mile that is closer to not the 0 and not the 1. Think about that for a moment. And think about who could have done that. And that will be our answer right here. Mr. O'Leary, because 4/8 is halfway. Oh, goodness. I can see up here we've got a little typo. Okay. That 4/8 is halfway between 0 and 1. So 4/8 is equal to 1/2. Alrighty. Go ahead and get those written down. If you have any questions, let me know. We're going to move on to number 18. Rahul compares two whole pieces that are the same size. He says that 2/6 is less than, 2/3, because 2/6 is less than half, and 2/3 is greater than 1/2. Is he correct? Lots to think about there. So he says that 2/3 is smaller than 2/6, because 2/6 is less than a half, and 2/3 is greater than a half. Is he correct? So if you've got a number line, and another number line, okay, and then he says this one is, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So he says that 2/6 is less than 2/3 because 2/6 is less than a half. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3. Okay. So this should be the halfway mark. If we broke this into thirds, we'd have 1, 2, 3. And then 2/3 would be closer to the whole thing. Let's see here. We've got some typo going on here. Let's get back here. Okay. Draw a little text box here. Okay. So we're going to say yes. And we're going to go smaller because that's huge writing. Okay, I'm not sure why it's not letting me. Okay. So we're going to compare the two wholes that are the same size. He says that 2/6 is less than 2/3 because 2/6 is less than a half. So yes, we're going to say yes, he's correct, because 2/8 is less than 1/2, because our little pictures here. We'll see. Let's see what we can do with our magic here. Sorry, you guys have to sit here through this. I don't know why it doesn't. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Okay. I think I lost my whole answer. There we go. Yes, 2/8 is less than 1/2 because 2 of the 1/6 pieces are shorter than 1 fraction of 1/2, one group of 1/2. 2/3 is greater because 2 1/3 pieces let's see if I can make it a little smaller. Just need that little thing to show up on here. It won't let me let that be smaller. All right, guys, sorry about that. Let's just see if I spread it out a little bit, if that helps. Okay. Sorry to make you wait on that. All right, because 2 1/3 are longer than 1/2. All right. Sorry I couldn't make this go smaller. I'm not sure what the deal is. Oh, goodness. There we go. All right, let's cruise down here to the next one. All right. Manish drives 265 more miles than Janice. Manish drives 642 miles altogether. So how many miles does Janice drive? So remember, he has 642 and she has 265. So we need to take that out. So we have 642 minus 265 would equal 377 miles. I had checked my work already. So you can have a freebie there. Number 20, Nika has 90 pencils. 40 of them are yellow, 13 are green, 18 are red, and the rest are blue. So how many blue pencils does Nika have? So we have to add up all of the pencils that we have colors of and subtract them from the whole group. We have 90 altogether. So we're going to have 40 plus 13, so 53, so plus 10 more would be 63, plus 8 more would be 71. So we're going to do 90 minus 71 would equal 19 blue pencils, because we knew what all the other ones were. We just didn't know what the blue was. Look, we typed it in blue. Alrighty. So higher order thinking, usually we have to think a little bit more, work on some things a little bit more. So it says, Omar says that 2/3 is less than 4/6 because 2/3 is between 0 and 1/2, and 4/6 is between 1/2 and 1. Is he correct? Explain. All right. So no, he is not correct, right? Because 2/3 and 1/6 are equivalent fractions. Both name the same point between 1/2 and the whole number. Let's draw a picture. Okay. So let's prove that's correct. We've got a squiggly line and then another squiggly line. All right. So Let's see. Okay, whoops, I see a typo in here. Whoopsie. Shouldn't be 1/6 because we are doing 4/6, it says. All right. So if we broke this up, get my handy dandy thing here. If we broke it up 1 1/3 Okay, so we broke it up 1/3, 2/3, 3/3. All right, and then if we broke this one up into 4ths or 6ths, 1/6, 2. Oh goodness sakes! Good grief. Not being nice to me. I just want to make a little line here. Okay. We're hoping. All right. Oh, it's not going to work. All right. So if you divided that line up into 6ths and you divided the top one into thirds, you would find that the 2/3 and the 4/6 sit at the very same spot. So that was the explanation I was trying to write down for you or draw for you so you could see what that looked like. But it's not going to cooperate with me today. Oh, technology. What I wouldn't give to be in the classroom to do this. Wouldn't that be way more fun? And a lot easier too. All right. Oh, boop, 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 boop. There we go. Bring this back down here. All right, so you can copy my answer down there. And the last one, it says write each fraction in the correct answer space to show whether the fraction is closer to 0 or closer to 1. All right, so here are all of our fractions. So 1/8, would that be closer to the 0 or closer to the 1? That one would be closer to the 0. And then 6/8, that's almost to the end, isn't it? So that is closer to 1. We've done these two. Let's do 2/3. Well, we're almost finished, so it's closer to 1. 3/4. You only need one more piece to be all the way done. So 3/4 is closer to 1. And 2/6 is just barely past the 0. And 1/6 is just barely past the 0. All right, so copy those down in your book. And then you can use any of this information to do your homework. And so practice that because this is a skill we want to remember for 4th grade. So we're looking to see if things are closer to 1, closer to 0, closer to the half. Where is it before the half? Are they at or after the half? So try to do your homework on that. Looks very similar. Which of the fractions is closer to 1 than to 0? Which of the fractions are closer to 0 than to 1? So you're flipping those around. Greater than, less than, equal to on there. Let's get to the bottom here. And then we get to use this graph, just like we did with our practice paper, to answer how close they are to 0 or 1 or the half. So go ahead and go over those. Show your parents. Email me if you need help, if you need me to do like a little lesson with you about it. I'd be happy to do that too. So let's go back to the beginning here. Also, I put up a new one I think, Sunday of the answer key for last week's task card. So if you didn't see that, that is over there now. I had to make a whole new one. All right, so we've gone over all of these assignments. And so we are, wow, getting close to being done for the year. Can you believe it? I'm going to give new assignments for today. I'm going to do assignments for Wednesday, which is tomorrow, and Thursday, which is the day after that. Friday, we're going to save for people to make up any work they need to finish up. And also, of course, my class, we can go all the way to Sunday with our work if we need to take the weekend to turn that daily assignment checkoff sheet in. And then next week, I'm trying to work on some fun things. And I'm thinking we could do some Zoom meetings and some maybe Zoom show and tell because we'll have a lot more time. The only thing that'll be going on next week, which will be the last week of school, we'll be finishing up our opinion writing paper. And that's only 2 lessons. And then anybody who has any past due work will need to work on things that week to get them turned in before the end of the week. So that's when we finish up our grades and you'll get your report card on the last day of school. The report card comes on the Infinite Campus. So we don't really send a paper. So that we'll send a notification to check the portal. So if your parents need help with that, please have them call the school, or if parents, if you're listening, please call the school and get, some help on how to make sure you can see the portal, because that's a very important thing. And you'll want to make sure you get used to that because our whole school uses Infinite Campus. And so you want to be able to get on there and check that. So I think maybe kindergarten and maybe first might not use it as much, but everybody else uses it completely. So that will be where you find your progress reports and your grades and your report card. So, all right, guys, have a great Tuesday. Keep working hard. I'm very proud of you. And we're going to work on getting it all wrapped up so that we can have some fun next week. All right, we'll talk to you tomorrow.